Hey guys, Chris here from Carolot Farm. I am getting an early start to the day. I think it's about 9 o'clock. There's a nice breeze blowing this morning and it's not too hot just yet. So what I'm trying to do today, what I am hoping to accomplish, is to take this one little area here, this little fence line where our sugar snaps grew in the spring, and weed it, till it, and then ultimately prepare it and hopefully, fingers crossed, get my winter butternut squash planted. It is now the middle of July, and I'm hoping that if we put the seeds in now, we might get a good crop in the fall. So let's see how much we get done today. As you can see here, I have not touched this bed since I pulled my sugar snaps. So I'm hoping to really get in here well today and do a thorough job to give my butternut the best chance. The first thing I will do though is actually remove the fence line so that I can have better access to the grass that is below. A lot of times we will put a fence line up and it's really temporary, and so I can pretty easily just unhook the fence here, and that way, you know, we can reuse it and I can remove it if and when I need to, like now. Voila, the fence line is up. It's back behind me in the pathway here because it will go back. The squash will need something ultimately to climb up, and I will use the fence line once it's back up to help with the placement of the seeds. So it's not going to go far, but now I have direct access to all of this lovely grass. So the initial rough weeding has been completed, and I have a huge pile of grass. I have a pile of decomposing cardboard that had been, you know, on the pathways beside the sugar snaps, but cardboard only lasts so long, and so it was helping to still deter some of the grass and the weeds, but the grass was also beginning to like grow up through the cardboard. So time for new cardboard. But again, I finished this first kind of, rough weeding, and the next step will be to turn it with my shovel and then ultimately get my little hand cultivator, my little battery operated hand tiller. And after that, I'll be ready to put the seeds in. Because it is quickly warming though today, I might have to do this in stages. So likely the next thing I'll do is turn the soil again by hand with my shovel, and then I might have to duck indoors for a little bit and then come back out. So this might be a little bit of a multi-step process, but we'll have to see how the day goes. I have just finished turning this garden plot with my shovel, and I will now get my battery-powered cultivator, and that will give us the final till before we prepare to plant. Having just used my garden battery-operated tiller, my little hand tiller or cultivator, I was able to not only give the soil a really good workover, but I was also able to get a lot of the grass roots removed. The tilling action and the tines helped to really gather a lot of those roots, as well as my hand, cultivator, the little claw, the little hand rake. That is also another really fantastic tool to help get those extra roots that are sort of still remaining in the soil. We are looking pretty good now. It's just a matter of putting our fence line back up. There's my little kitty cat shrimp. Hi, shrimpers. And once we get the fence back up in place, we will go ahead and plant our squash. Not only does this little hand tiller or cultivator do a great job just turning the soil, but it also does a really good job getting all of those roots out. I'm so happy to get all of those roots out. Again, with weeds and such in a garden, it's inevitable. You're always going to have weeds, you're always going to have grass. But I really do feel like the more of the root structure we can remove in the process, the better. And so something like this makes me pretty happy. I think I mentioned earlier that today was a bit of a dry gardening day. We haven't had rain for 3 or 4 days, so things are getting a little dry because it's been quite warm. And normally I like to do my weeding and gardening on a wet day because the ground is softer and more pliable. However, one thing I will note that is a little nice about gardening on a dry day such as today is that when when it comes time to clean your gardening tools, it's a lot easier to get the built up mud and root and debris off of your tools on a dry day. So, you know, it's not all bad, but the ground is usually a little easier to work on a wet day. My little garden supervisor is taking a nap over there in the shade of the buckets. We've got our fence line up. I've got my seeds. So all we have to do now is put them in the ground. I'm really happy though to have my fence line up first. And I may have said this earlier, but the reason I wanted to wait to get my fence back in place is so that I know exactly where I want to place my seeds, because this fence line, I don't know if you can tell by looking, but it's not, you know, pulled taut. It's not perfectly straight. And again, to help train my squash, I want them to be very close to the base of my fence here. And so I really need to know where that is before I put my seeds in the ground. So now that we're ready, let's get to planting. Okay guys, in my usual fashion, I'm gonna be planting these a little on the thick side. The instructions actually say to put multiple seeds in a mound and have them spaced, you know, several feet apart. I'm not gonna do that. I'm gonna take my chances and I'm gonna just plant, I'm gonna plant these more like I did my cucumbers or even my sugar snaps. And I'm gonna plant one seed every couple of inches, and then I'll see what comes up. And if I need to thin them, I will. But I do wanna make sure I have several good vines that are coming up that can really grow on our trellis fence here. So I'm gonna forego the instructions and cross my fingers and toes. So it looks like I planted about a third of this package of seeds. I think I roughly counted out 12 or so seeds that I have spread along my fence line here. And if I had to guess, I would say this fence line is, I don't know, 6 to 8 feet long maybe. I could be way off, but I think it's about 6 to 8 feet long. So again, I know that they're a little closer than would be recommended, and I did not hill them, but because the ground is very well tilled and the seeds have been planted about an inch deep, which was recommended, I think that they will do just fine here. And I have grown squash like this, winter squash, butternut squash. I have grown it successfully on a fence line before. So I know it's, you know, it's certainly possible. So now that we've got our seeds in the ground though, all that's really left to do is water and then wait and see what happens. You know, I think today is July 16th maybe, so we're, you know, middle of July. And the package of seeds here says ready to harvest in 85 days. I've also seen some other people say anywhere from, you know, 80 to 100 days. So that would put us, I think, the middle of October perhaps. And by about that time, hopefully our produce here will be ripe and ready, all before the first frost, because these plants are not going to fare well in the frost. So we do hope that everything is mature well before that first round of cold weather hits. So again, all I'm going to do now is water and then wait and see. As we wait to see these little squash plants pop up, I want to keep a close eye out on the squash bugs. Those bugs not only affect the squash and zucchini, but the cucumbers behind me, as well as the pumpkins. And so that is a garden pest that will definitely be after these plants once they start to grow and mature. So we'll want to do our very best to limit the amount of pests that they encounter. Another tip though I'll leave you with, not only to be mindful of those garden pests, when you are watering a really small tender crop such as this, you know, seeds that have just gone in, I like to use a watering can like I did today, whereas once the vines pop up and they're a little more established, I will switch to using my buckets and my cups of water. Those are my two preferred methods for watering here in the garden. I find that using a sprayer or even the hose just kind of entices the grass and the weeds to take off even more so than they already do. So happy gardening, and I hope you found those little tips helpful. Thank you so much for joining me today here in the garden as we work to plant our butternut squash, or winter squash, some people call it. You know, we've got a lot going on in the garden. My cucumbers in the back are very happy. I've got my first batch of green beans almost ready to harvest. And so there's a lot to do here in the garden just about every day when the sun is shining. So now that we've got our butternut squash in, I can't wait to see how they do, and I'll keep you posted. Thanks again for checking in. Check back soon, and we hope to see you in the future. Bye, guys.